Hell cut my power at 2 a.m. That's when I realized just how far folks will go to protect a lie. Thing is, their plan backfired. See, I'd bought this lakefront lot that sits exactly 1 foot outside the HOA line. And the moment I drove my first stake into the dirt, they came for me, lawyers, fake inspectors, the whole circus. What they didn't count on. I don't bend. I dig in. And I don't stop until every thread of their scheme unravels in broad daylight. If you're the kind of person who stands your ground too, stick around. I've got stories that'll make every HOA president think twice before messing with the wrong neighbor. The morning I broke ground in northern Montana, the world was quiet as a confession. Wind curled through the tall pines. And when I popped my tailgate open, the smell of sawdust hit me like a memory sharp. Clean. Honest. The lake was still as poured glass. That kind of mirror where you forget that trouble exists anywhere outside these slopes. After 2 decades designing bridges for other folks, this was the first time I'd ever planned to build something for myself, a cabin. With my own hands. On land I'd measured and defended down to the last inch. And buddy, that inch mattered more than I could have known. I walked the property line that morning, dragging a tape measure behind me the same way I used to do back when I worked as a surveyor. Slow. Methodical. Double-checking where the county map lined up with the old birch trees marking the edge. The HOA boundary ran in a clean arc behind those birches. And my lot. 1 foot outside. Not a yard. Not even a full stride, just enough to keep every HOA rule, fee, and busybody off my back. I bought this dirt for that exact reason. Setting out the first footing stakes. The only sound was the soft thud of my mallet. Wind turning over leaves. The gentle ripple of water against the bank. It was peace. Plain and simple. A future home. Cedar siding. A wood stove burning steady through the Montana winter. That was the picture in my head right up until dust kicked up on the road behind me. I turned and saw a beige SUV bumping its way toward my sight. Nose dipping like the driver was in too much of a hurry for the gravel. Out stepped a woman in a maroon coat, Linda Farnell. Lakeshore HOA president. Smile tight enough to cut glass. Posture like a flagpole. I knew her from the bulletins at the post office. Up close. She looked even colder than the lake in February. You can't build there. She barked, coming at me with the confidence of someone who's never had to question their own authority. This is shoreline jurisdiction. I leaned on my shovel, tipped my hat. Ma'am, this is private property. Permits pulled. County signed off. She barely looked. Lakeshore HOA regulations apply to all visible structures along the lakefront. She said, that word regulations, it'll flatten your mood faster than a hailstorm. I kept my voice steady, like I was explaining a blueprint to a stubborn client. Your boundary ends 1 foot behind those birches. This isn't your land. She bristled, arms crossed so tight I thought she'd snap a rib. Community visual harmony. She insisted. We have to protect the aesthetic. I let out a slow breath. That sounds made up. She handed me a stack of papers. Diagrams. Clauses, mostly noise. This wasn't about rules. It was about control. So I pulled out my zoning map. Unrolled it on the truck hood. That thick red HOA line looped behind the birches. Blued out for my parcel. Clearly outside. Your HOA stops here. I'm over here. My land. My build. Linda stared at the map like it had insulted her personally. Cheeks reddened. Lips thinned. She folded her papers up like she was sealing away a grudge. Well, she hissed. Then our lawyers will handle you. She spun on her heel. Coat flapping. SUV spitting gravel at my lumber pile as she peeled out. Just like that. The quiet was back, but now, it had an edge to it. I drove the next footing stake deeper. Metal ringing a little sharper. If she was picking a fight on land she didn't even own, something deeper was brewing. 3 days later, I pulled up to my lot just after sunrise and found a white violation sign staked in my driveway. HOA crest. Bulleted infractions, unauthorized construction, environmental disruption, failure to comply with aesthetic guidelines. All official looking. Problem is, the sign sat 100 feet outside their jurisdiction. I took photos, the sign, the fresh tire tracks, everything, documentation. my old supervisor used to say, is what makes the truth unshakable. That day, I called the county building office. You're outside their authority, Dave said, voice as warm as old coffee. They can't issue notices on land not deeded to the HOA. But they did. I told him. That got his attention. I'll file an incident report that's impersonating a municipal authority. And just like that, this wasn't an HOA spat anymore. This was bigger. The next few days, things escalated. Trail cams I'd set up caught a man limping through the night. Hood pulled low, planting another HOA notice by the cabin frame. Not a prank, this was an assignment. Boots favored the right leg. Details like that stick with you. When two white SUVs showed up, Lakeshore Compliance Division decals slapped on. Two men in matching polos stepped out, clipboards at the ready. They tried their best official act. We're here for a shoreline compliance inspection. I wiped sawdust off my gloves. Told them flat, you're trespassing. This is an HOA land. They blustered about extension clauses and environmental assets. I just laid out my county map again. Red boundary line, clear as day. Your border stops behind those birches. Right then, Nora Deegan, a sawmill owner, tough as they come, appeared with a box of bolts for my build. She looked the men up and down and scoffed. You even know whose driveway you're standing in? She said. Turns out, these were the same types who'd harassed the Petersons last year. Find them until they sold cheap. You're poking a nest? She warned me. They don't like losing. She was right. That night, my generator got hit. Trail cam footage caught the same limping man later identified as Mark Weller. HOA maintenance cutting the cables at 2 a.m. Sheriff's Deputy Riek called it what it was, vandalism and a safety hazard. He filed a report, forwarded it to the county prosecutor, and told me, you know why they're poking you so hard? Folks this bold make big mistakes. That afternoon, I watched from a distance as deputies arrested Weller at the HOA's weekly meeting. He didn't fight, just looked guilty as wet laundry. But if Weller was the foot soldier, Linda was still the general. And it was clear now, they wanted control of my lot for a reason. Something they were desperate to hide. So I brought in a pro. Avery Knox. Property attorney. Quick-witted. No nonsense. We dug into public records. And there it was, a petition for environmental impact review. Filed 6 weeks earlier for shoreline parcels matching my land filed by the Clearwater Conservation Coalition. Registered agent? Douglas Farnell. Linda's cousin. Turns out, the HOA had built a fake nonprofit to push for rule changes, trying to bring my land under their thumb. Avery found emails between county staff and the coalition. Your requested adjustments are feasible. We'll flag parcels for review. Someone inside was helping them. If we hadn't caught it, my lot would have quietly been reclassified, giving the HOA legal grounds to harass and delay forever. When a government sedan dropped a letter at my site, notification of temporary reclassification, shared community oversight, pending further review, Nora read it and muttered, that's not a real classification. It is now, I said. This was bureaucratic warfare, the kind where power hides in paperwork. But paperwork leaves a trail. We subpoenaed the HOA's internal emails. The evidence binder Avery brought to court looked like it could stop a bullet. Inside were messages. Create pressure points early to deter development. If he refuses oversight, escalate citations. Environmental concerns. Access obstruction. Weller, I'll take care of the generator tonight. Won't be a problem after that. Judge Callahan, legendary for her fairness, presided. When Linda tried to claim it was all for the community, the judge shut her down. You acted as if you were a government body. None of this is your authority. Injunction granted. HOA forbidden from setting foot near my property. And, on top of that, referred for criminal conspiracy. The judge even froze their discretionary funds, pending a full audit. Walking out of that courtroom, I finally felt something loosen in my chest, the weight of every sleepless night. Every intimidation. Just gone. Justice, when it finally lands, isn't loud, it's like a silent sunrise after a storm. But the real shockwave came weeks later, when the state's Department of Public Integrity showed up, tracing vendor payments through a shell company managed by Linda's cousin. Unreported payments. $180. 000 and counting. Local news filmed the arrest Douglas, the treasurer. Even Linda herself standing outside. Hollow-eyed. Reporters shouting about fake nonprofits and sabotage. Fraud. Conspiracy. Racketeering. The whole house of cards collapsed. The cabin that started it all. Finished. At last. Nora helped me sand the floors. We filled the place with the scent of pine and fresh varnish. On a snowy night, sitting by the wood stove, I got a call from the new interim HOA president. We need you at the next meeting. Help us understand what needs to change. I went not as a member, but as someone who'd seen what happens when power goes unchecked. I told the truth. Every dirty trick, every lie, every brave neighbor who stood up. When I finished, there was a slow, honest applause, not triumphant, but relieved. A few weeks later, a letter from the state auditor's office. Lakeshore HOA under formal review. All spending accounts frozen. The AG opened a racketeering case. Nobody wanted to touch the old vendor lot. So I bought it for a few $1,000. Turned it into a public fishing spot with a sign. No dues. No rules. Just respect. Kids come now. Families too. And the lake feels like it finally belongs to the people who love it. One morning, an unsigned note was slipped under my door. We were wrong. You stood your ground. Thank you. I tucked it in with my old deed, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Justice doesn't roar. It settles, quiet as the lake after a storm. Looking out over the water, I realized this cabin, this 1 foot of land, was proof even the most stubborn HOA can't outrun the truth. And the truth? It wins. Every single time. So long as someone's willing to fight for it. So here's my question, where's the line for you? What would you fight for? Even when the odds feel stacked. Drop your stories, your lines in the sand, down in the comments. If you want more tales of ordinary people holding the line against power, go ahead and subscribe. I'll be right here, ready to tell the next one.